All right, we'll get this work session for August 6th, the Webster Grove City Council underway. We will start, as we usually do, with board and commission interviews. We have 4 tonight. The first 2 are for the Police Community Engagement Board. We have 2 vacancies. Both of those are for resident members. We'll start with Brandy Grant, who is on Zoom. Brandy, they're going to allow you to talk, and then you can unmute yourself. And then what we ask you to do is simply tell us a little bit about why you would like to be on the Police Community Engagement Board and what you think you might bring to it. Has she been allowed to talk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. We can. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to join your meeting. My name is Brandy Grant. I'm actually from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been living in Seattle for the last 10 years, and I recently came to Missouri and got to visit the Webster Groves community. I actually will be living there, and I was just so impressed with the invisible thread that lies there amongst community, the way that it felt, the comfort level, the safety that I felt, and the connection. I am someone that has over 20 years of nonprofit and organizational development experience. I've also been here the last 5 to 6 years doing police oversight for the Seattle Police Department. I was the former executive director of the Seattle Community Police Commission, and I had a really grand opportunity to be a part of not only police oversight, but also being able to bridge and bring in community to be a part of advising the police department, the hiring, the things that we felt like needed to be improved, but being really willing to work in tandem to improve our police department. It was not something that I felt like at all times had to be overly critical or something that we had to overly analyze, because I had a lot of respect for the officers that were protecting and serving our communities. And I began to do my research when I found out that I would be a resident of Webster Groves, and heard that you all have the Police Engagement Board. And I felt like it would be a natural stepping stone for me based on the work experience that I already had. And just personally, as a community member, this would always be something that I would be tied to.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from council? Great. Do you have one?
So yes, you indicate you are moving to Webster, or are you?
I will be a resident as of next week. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Brandy, I just have, this is Laura Arnold. I just have one question, and given, your vast experience, which I will tell you is incredibly impressive and would be very valuable, I just wonder if you've taken a look at what the Police Community Engagement Board actual ordinance says, or what it does. Because just to make sure that you're clear, this isn't oversight in the same way.
No, it's not at all. And Laura, and I appreciate you reminding me of that too. I was able to do my research, and it seems like it's more of an advisement. We are not a governing body. I'm actually appreciative of that. I want to just be a community member. I think it would be really good for me to be on the other side of things. And so again, I'm coming more as a community member that just has the experience, but also I'm a neighbor. I will be living there now. I have a son. And so it just felt naturally leaning for me to be able to advise in some type of way or be of some sort of assistance. So I definitely know that it is not oversight, and I'm actually looking forward to the fact that it's not.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that clarification, and it's excellent. Are there other council members with questions?
We don't have a question, Mayor Arnold, but I believe there is a residency requirement to be on the board, or any board and commission.
Right. So what we will say, Brandy, until you're a resident, I do not believe you're eligible. So we will have to wait. I mean, I think the interview can stand without problem, right? And I see the city clerk and the city attorney both nodding. When they nod at me at the same time, it always makes me feel good. So what we will do then is I think we'll hold the discussion of your nomination until, or your application, until you've resided here. So we'll do that at our next meeting. That way you'll be a resident and know.
It's a year.
Okay. That sounds good. And was that council member Smith? Is that Mr. Emerson?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm getting
So Mayor, we believe the PCB has a requirement, the resident has to be here a minimum of 1 year, so. city
Okay, then.
attorney is-
Okay, so Brandy, how about this? We're gonna get back to you once we clarify our own rules and figure out what might work with the rules and work for you. And I'll be honest, if we can't make PCEB work, I'm gonna ask you to do something else, if you don't mind, because
I would be perfectly okay with that. And I read the rules, whoever also interjected and brought that up. I do see that you all, I'm very much abreast with you guys' bylaws and your rules. And yeah, and I did see that I needed to be there a year. And so if there's any assistance that I can provide in any type of volunteer capacity, as I said, I'm going to be a neighbor. And so if there's anything that I can do in the interim, I'm also perfectly okay with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well-
Brandy, this is Emerson Smith again. So I'll reach back out to you and share some opportunities that you'll be able to volunteer your time.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Brandy. Our second interview is David Cosgrove. Mr. Cosgrove, hello. I think you can come right here. We're gonna need you to be on camera. Yeah, you can.
Where's the camera? So
Well, yeah, you can see yourself
I
out.
can see myself.
Actually, if
The
you'd like,
diet.
if you'd like to actually, if you'd like to sit in the chair, then
I
we
would
can
like
do
to
that
sit.
too.
I haven't stood for an interview since I was 24. I was applying to be an assistant district attorney in New York City. And I had to stand up in the middle of the interview and do a closing argument in front of 5 people in a very small office. And I still sweat just thinking about it. And they offered me a very small amount of money, so I was off the hook. But anyways, it's nice meeting all of you. And so a little bit about myself. I live on Newport Ave. I lived there for 13 years in 2 different houses. We moved about 1/8 of a mile, probably 9 years ago. I live at 846 now. And I try to always stay somewhat involved in my community. I was on the Board of Adjustment for about 7 years, made a slew of enemies, decided I had filled my role, making people unhappy relative to variances. And that was probably ended about 4 or 5 years ago now that I was on the Board of Adjustment. I'm not very good with reverse chronology. And so I could say I've been on the sidelines of community service, but even though I'm 58 years old, I'm the proud father of a 7-year-old that goes to Avery. And so I've not been inactive. Don't worry. I've been busy and I continue to be busy. But not to blame my wife, but she decided that I wasn't quite busy enough and decided or thought, and she saw the opportunity here for the police board and thought that this was a good way for me to get re-involved again. I was an assistant district attorney for about a decade when I was a younger man. And so I'm very familiar with law enforcement and working with law enforcement and some of the issues that law enforcement faces. And so I think the combination of having that background combined with being a member of the community that has a vested interest with a 7-year-old at Avery in public safety for all of us, but particularly I have a new perspective as a father about public safety. And I found it very interesting. I read the ordinance and it seemed within my realm. I think there'll be a period of listening for me. Lest I come in and be a know-it-all, which is not my practice, to do that. And so I hope you'll listen and learn. If you decide that I can bring value to the board, that would be great. If you decide that there's some other role that you think I should play in the community, well, then I'd be all ears on that as well.
Next questions?
No question. That's either a very good sign or a very bad
Where do
sign.
we have openings currently?
We do have some on the Traffic Advisory Commission. We have 2 on the Traffic Advisory Commission and an alternate. We have a Board of Adjustment alternate member.
Anyways.
Yeah, and depending on how it goes tonight, that's about it.
And we have how many
Historic
on
preservation.
PCB, on police community engagement?
2.
I'm just worried you might be a little bored on the police community engagement board.
No, we talked already.
We did. We chatted today.
I understand you might have talked to Emerson. I wasn't part of that conversation though, so what would you guys talk about?
Oh,
These community engagement, the things that he can do, things that we're looking to do. So he was very interested and very excited about it.
had a discussion about the idea that there's an opportunity for more activity and more engagement perhaps going forward. And so it'd be a balance for me. If I was a new member, I'd want to participate in a level of growth without kind of being the new guy that thinks he knows everything.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be the balance for me.
Mhm.
And but without having been to any meetings, I probably can't say much more than that, but sounds like there's room for growth and room for me to be engaged in it.
Excellent.
Yes, great.
Emerson, are they having regular meetings?
Yes. But for this, I think there's.
Right.
More.
Yes. Okay.
David, thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you for all
And
your-
city clerk is going to follow up with you.
Very good. Thank all of you.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Have a
And
good
you're
night. Good luck-
welcome,
Good luck with
you're
your
welcome
meeting.
to spend the rest of the evening, or you're welcome to go on your way.
I'm gonna go watch the news. It's a big day.
Yes.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
We will move on to the Historic Preservation Commission and Kevin Randich.
That's me. Do I sit in the?
Yes, please come in the hot
I
seat.
think that's the chair of honor now. I think we're gonna call it that from now on. Thank you.
Sit there. Okay, I've been a resident of Webster Groves for 45 years.
Hmm.
And I'm a retired naval officer, 25 years. And retired recently from Smith and Nephew, or not Smith and Nephew, Sonica North America, which was formerly LMI Aerospace in St. Charles. It was within 25 years, was in charge of engineering. And I have two children that are no longer children, and they've been gone quite a while. And as a retiree, you know, I feel that I'd like to volunteer for something, anything the city needs. I have a particular interest in historic preservation. I've been very interested in preservation of technology. Technology is moving so fast, we've forgotten the ways we did it even 10 years ago. And then we make mistakes. I've worked with a lot of young engineers who, once you get them off the computer, they're lost. But I've been a member of the National Maritime Historical Society for 40 years.
Nice.
And that is an organization that preserves our maritime heritage, which we're rapidly losing. We don't have many American flagged ships at sea anymore. The Navy is a third of its former size. We're going to forget how we went to sea if we don't maintain some of these important artifacts, museums, and experts. And I'm also a member of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They preserve buildings, structures, and other historic elements of historic importance, which otherwise would rapidly get bulldozed and replaced with some new structure. Webster Groves is really blessed with a lot of early architecture. I go on these walks with my wife and we read about each one of the historic homes. Our home was built in 1910, and they built them well in those days, so it wouldn't still be here. Of course, it needs help. But I think, you know, with my engineering background and with, you know, my interest in historic preservation and my interest in Webster Groves and wanting to serve the city, that I could be a viable candidate for your, you know, commission.
Right. Are there questions here for Mr. Randich?
I guess my only one would be, because it was one of the things that I had to learn the first time I was liaison for the board, and so now it's the second time, is that we look at properties that come up for consideration or request for demolition. And one of the things is that was painfully made aware to me that we can't really stop a demolition if a property owner decides they want to demolish a property because they have ownership.
It's a big issue in Kirkwood right now.
Exactly, you know, and
More so
so,
than here even.
right, so, I mean, I wish there was more we could do, but I mean, how do you feel about that in terms of?
Well, first, I know Webster's got a problem in that, we'd like to see more multifamily housing. And, that's been difficult to achieve. And some of the older homes that, are, sitting on property that could be developed that way, it might be a better option for the city to have those demolished. However, if the structure really is architecturally significant, we should appraise the new owner or whoever wants to demolish it of its significance, and perhaps if there's possibilities of renovation or repairs that could restore it to its original condition. But no, once somebody owns something, it can be very difficult. But I certainly wouldn't want to be an obstructionist. I know there's been a lot of discussion in the city about, are we going to have 7-story buildings? Are we going to have major developments? But the city needs a bigger tax base.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, so you don't get that without new businesses and new structures. So there's a balancing act that has to occur. But I just want to make sure that if there is historical significance, that we research that and present that to the owners and try to make a case for other alternatives to demolition. If there be none, or if it be in the best interest of the city, let it go.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think you're off the hook here.
Thank you.
Can I get this back when I finish reading it?
I do want people just to see what kind of organizations.
Thank you for sharing.
But these are far from Webster, so getting closer to home, I could make more of a contribution.
That's great. Thanks for all of that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our second interview for Historic Preservation Commission is Jason Basser-Elon, who I believe is online there. Oh, excuse me, Doctor. And you now should be able to unmute.
Indeed. Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me to your meeting. I am just getting off the road. My wife and I just got back from Michigan, so literally getting back about 30 minutes ago.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. So, I guess what brings me to my interest in this commission, I'm an anthropologist. I have a degree in anthropology. I am a member of the American Anthropological Association and on the executive board for the Association of Black Anthropologists. I published quite broadly in anthropological journals. I'm actually presenting at the AAA in Tampa this November. I'm a professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and I'm very much interested in historic preservation. I like the gentleman that just left. I also have done some maritime research with Diving with a Purpose, which is a nonprofit based out of Tennessee, but they do a lot of historic preservation, maritime preservation on sunken slave ships. And I created curricula and have been part of some research projects with them. So I've been very fortunate to be able to use my background as an anthropologist in many interesting ways. And I come to this work with you all as a novice when it comes to what you all do. I just am interested in working with you all. I've been a resident here in Webster Groves for 5 years. My wife and I live on Bacon. We're at 553 Bacon Avenue. We'll have a century home in 2 years. So our home was built in 1926. And I actually called the city hall when we first got married to see if because we were thinking about making some renovations. And I was thinking about how can we make our home, renovate our home in a way that it was back in the day, in its heyday. So to make, conscious decisions on how to renovate without destroying any historical significance to the building. So anyway, I come to this volunteer position just with extreme interest of serving my community in different ways. I'm very active in other organizations within St. Louis, and I think it only makes sense to be active where I live here in Webster Groves. So I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. Council, are there questions?
I have none.
And I would just ask the same question as before about your thoughts on our ability or inability to actually stop a demolition, if the owner so chooses.
You know, that's a tricky question because as a property owner myself, there should be some autonomy there. But at the same time, I think if we at least have a discussion with the homeowner on the historical significance of the home, then perhaps we may persuade them to maybe not demolish. But if they so choose to do so, then we really don't have any say on what they should do with their property. But I think it would be in our best interest to educate community members on the importance of historic preservation. Because I think as time goes on, there's going to be a lot of things lost. For example, in our neighborhood alone, they've torn down some of our older structures. I've gotten many placards in the mail with people trying to buy our property so they can build some larger home. And so there have been many homes on our street on Bacon where the historic home has been torn down and developers have built these monstrosities. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that destroys the character of Webster Groves in various ways. And so I felt like I should be able to do something about that if I could. If I can be in a group of like-minded individuals to have some kind of influence or have a discussion on how we can approach those types of developers. I would just like to have a seat at the table to see if we can preserve some of that history we have here in Webster Groves.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you being with us, even though you're just back home. So you will, as I said to Mr. Randich, you will hear from the city clerk here relatively shortly about what the next steps are.
Okie doke. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone have anything to review on the regular agenda? All right, we'll start right with updates. David, I'm going to start with you today.
No update, Madam Mayor. No updates.
Oh, I guess we'll do council first, yeah.
I actually have an update this time.
Go for it.
So the Parks and Rec was a good meeting. We discussed the new name, the new naming. There's options that they're going to be presenting to us. They put a whole process together for the new park over by Deer Creek.
Yeah.
And so we'll be taking a look at that. They came up with a couple of options that I actually like, but of course I don't get a vote in the meeting. But,
you get one here.
So, we'll be able to take a look at those, and it was pretty interesting how they came up with them. Some of them having to do with the history, or some of them having to do with the location, and so there were a couple of options provided. We also discussed the submission of the Benny Gordon naming of the rec complex. And so, more to come on that. That's going to go through the new process. And so they're working on that. And then Scott just shared that the pool build is going well. He's excited because it's like his baby is finally being birthed. And so he's been really working on all of the plans and everything that needs. And so he said he was anxious. And I said, is it like your baby's being birthed? And he said, absolutely, because he's been making all the plans. And so now he's actually got to start seeing the work being done. So he's very excited. And you could even see the smile on his face today at the groundbreaking. I was able to talk to them about, because I wanted to make sure that I was there and in person to talk to them about our vote and our position on naming the sculpture park for Jerry, because of course we asked them to come up with a naming policy for us, and then we said okay, but we were going to, and we knew that it was up to our judgment if we wanted to, where we wanted to follow and not, or what have you. And we decided to set aside the 4-year requirement for out of office, but just explain to them that we really felt that was a special circumstance. And they really appreciated it because they felt as if exactly what my concern was, that we asked them to do something and then we went ahead. But he said, but the only reason that there was a concern is that they were never told anything other than, well, we just decided to go ahead and proceed with Jerry. And he said he really appreciated coming, one of us coming and saying to them, this is why we did that in this event. And that's, because we felt it was special, but it was in no way meant to negate the work. And we appreciate the work that you did. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you for that.
Really interesting, two different conversations. One about the community days and what thoughts might be behind the drone shows as opposed to the fireworks. Most of the consensus was like, drones can't replace fireworks, and so anyway, that was pretty interesting. So I'm sure there's more to come, more
Great.
talks on that in terms of seeing what the community feels about it. And the other one was some conversation around rerouting the parade. And one of the reasons was they really feel that where the parade ends has a pretty big impact on the attendance of the carnival. Whereas previously, the parade always ended where we end now, right there at Memorial Field. And now everybody was there and everybody had gathered to see it. And so they just then made their way on into the carnival. Whereas now they have to make their way over to Eden Seminary. And they really feel that they see a difference in the participation, the crowd there. But so that was one of the things that they just talked about. What if it was not as long and went a different route? So I think there's more to come there. But that's what I have.
Thank you.
We haven't met since the parade, right?
Yeah.
We have?
We had a second meeting.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was like, do I need to thank the parade? Summer brain. Okay, I am the liaison for ARB, and there's nothing to report there. Everybody's just doing great work. And the BDC. And last report there, from our businesses and services, everybody's just really so focused on making us a destination spot. They are rolling out soon a program called Blue Dot, which is a dynamic database. It's a collaboration between the businesses and the city. And Eric, I hope you'll correct me if I've got any of this wrong. They're able to list events. It's public facing as well. And so there's a calendar that folks can access. There's hopefully going to be like a little QR code at like the point of sale for our retail. So if people are like, oh, where should we go to get a coffee? And that's you could trip over the coffee shops in here. So maybe I should use a different example, but then you can scan this code and look up this through this database. So that is a really cool thing that's going on, and really impressed to see that about to roll out. If it hasn't yet, correct? No, okay, thank you. They are again, I've mentioned this before, organizing a business coffee on the 18th of September. That's at the Rec Center at 8:30. You'll hear me report that a couple more times. And they are looking forward to working with Tiara on Explore Webster Groves, and that should be really exciting. Just kind of building that whole Webster destination thing. And their GDA collaboration with sustainability, those applications for those grants are live, and that's the Green Dining Alliance. So that's what I got.
Excellent.
I stood in for Emily yesterday for Green Space, and so I'm just gonna report out on that. A couple weeks ago, Forest Relief had a citywide tour, meaning St. Louis County-wide tour. And they stopped at Southwest Park and had lunch, and as Yvonne put it, she said they were walking in other people's shady imagination, which I thought was quite poetic, meaning there were generations of trees that they provided to the city. And so Southwest Park is now becoming greener for us. They did have a question. They're looking for clarity on Green Our City. And they just want to know what their role is moving forward. They understand it might be going away. And they wanted to ask about that.
That their role might be going away or that the program?
The program might be changing, and so they wanted to know if they were still able to collaborate on planting trees in the public right of way.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Right. Dr. Peoples?
Yes, ma'am. Pretty quick updates. Gazebo series starts on the 16th. The IT consultants will be on site August 20th to start our IT master planning process. So staff will be plenty busy with that, and Eric's already started the invitations, so it's been exciting and long time coming. So that's good stuff. And then update on the comprehensive plan with Lakota Group. We've continued our bi-weekly meetings. They will be on site the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd. So they'll be here Thursday, leaving early Sunday morning. They'll be attending a gazebo series. They're also planning another listening session. I will get some stuff posted about that. North Webster Neighborhood Coalition will be hosting that listening session. They're also doing another listening session that will not be open to the public, but it's going to be at the high school with students. They're getting the young boys. So that is more moving right along, and they will be presenting to the city council at the August 20th meeting. They will be submitting their state of the city report.
Great.
Nice. Thanks.
Thank you. Sir?
I have nothing to report.
Right, I just have a couple quick things. I attended the plan commission meeting last night in Emily's absence. The only item on the agenda was the KBC Children's Hospital Partnership, their request for change in zoning and conditional use permit. It was a very well attended meeting, 50 or so people online, another 65 in the room. They made it through the public hearing, quite a few public comments, which you'll be able to see and or read through the minutes. Some concerns about security, size, fencing, and the applicant did ask after the closing of the public hearing that they continue the discussion at the next plan commission meeting. They, as I understood it, they wanted the opportunity to think a little bit about some of the questions that had been asked and make some informational, do some information gathering and work before that comes back to plan commission at the next meeting. Second thing is normally I have last 3 years, I think it has served on the St. Louis County Municipal League Legislative Committee. I am not doing that this time, but Renee Tyler has agreed, our deputy city manager, to do so. So thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated. All right, this is the time where someone's forgotten something that and now they remember. Emerson.
No, it's not after we just finished the ceremony, but the cool thought came to my head. Is there any possibility of any of that equipment that's there can be repurposed? Not necessarily for us, but maybe to other municipalities that want something to create. I don't know what demolition might look like, but it would be a good idea if it can be repurposed, just to give it to another community. Probably a question for Scott and I guess the developers, but some of the stuff might be old, but it still looked like it was feasible to be used. So, and then the developer, they'll know if it can be moved without any harm. So that's the question. If that can happen.
Yes.
So Director Davis says he's birthing this baby.
Mm-hmm.
He is all over.
Another medical.
I actually think we'll enjoy that. He is all over that. He has actually already auctioned some of it. It's been on Purple Wave, which is a site we put some of our stuff, and some of the auctions have closed right in 12,000.
12,000 so far, and other cities have purchased some of our materials, including things that developers thought would be junk. So.
And if I recall, there's issues with repurposing the slide, so that one is not going to be, but some of the shade structures, we did not auction off. Scott is thinking of repurposing them in some of the other parks, having them repainted, sending them out. seeing if we can refurbish them. So we are trying to be green every step of the way and repurpose what we can.
Oh, good.
David wants the serpent.
Yeah, so if maybe it's already been auctioned off.
I'm a little upset if it has.
I'll see if I can snag it.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our topics. I'm gonna switch the order, hoping that that might facilitate. Sorry, I'm gonna stay right where you are though. And start with the front entry garages. Councilmember Alexander, would you like to expound a little bit since you asked for this issue on the agenda?
Yes, I think that we really need to revisit our zoning requirements, our ordinance around front entry garages. I know that we've had conversations about it in the past and never really got a clear explanation as for the justification around it, because it's clearly the application is inconsistent. But even whatever the explanation is, I think that we need to reconsider our hard whatever line against not being able to have front entry garages in some of these neighborhoods. And right now, I think it's really going to a question direct. Not only is it inconsistent, because I've watched a lot of new homes built in the Northwest Webster neighborhood, and I'm sure David is seeing a lot in South Webster, but you have streets that have driveways and garages. It might not be a garage, but it's a carport. Still has a front entry driveway going in, but you can't have a new construction with a front entry garage there. And then you have houses on streets. On one block over here, we've got new houses with front entry garages. And then on another street, we're telling people that they can't have a front entry garage. And it's also, most importantly, has a significant impact on affordability and on sustainability. Because I'm looking at the two that are going up next to me right now. And the difference in the cost to construct for having to put this garage on either a side entry. Now you need a wider lot, first of all. So that goes to the affordability. And then you also have a sustainability issue because you have a larger percentage of impervious covering with the concrete. So on these particular houses, we now then also, by having an detached garage in the back of the house, because there's not enough space to make a side entry where you can turn around and meet the zoning requirement for that. Now you have to have a rear entry garage. So you have all of this concrete, 170 feet length from the front of the property to the back of the property. It's already a downhill topography, which goes straight toward the creek. And by the way, there's a house right behind there. So all of this runoff is going to have a direct impact on the house behind it. So in addition, you've got the sustainability concerns, water runoff, and you have the affordability. And I think I would like to see us look at this zoning. And I'm sure that there are still some guardrails that we need to have in place. I mean, certainly there's some things we're not going to be able to do in some of the neighborhoods that are actually historical neighborhoods. And so we have some parameters around that. But I think that we definitely need to revisit overall, what does that zoning say and what can we do to update it so that we are more in alignment with current building practices as well as addressing affordability and sustainability issues.
Thank you very much. So appreciate the explanation. So I'm just going to do the short summary, which is I think what you're asking for is some staff research to be done on understanding what we have now and what we might move to maybe some comparisons with other cities, and I think you just used the phrase best practices, which makes sense to me. So I think what we have to do now is just, is this something that council as a group is willing to say, we like this to research to move forward?
I think this is a great idea, especially just seeing the houses built in South Webster and how they are now rear facing garages. And I just don't think that it's fits with the neighborhood, but two, for me, it's the affordability factor. Make it an adds cost, or at least it seems like it would add costs. So I'd like to see some information and data on that.
I agree as well.
If we address it, can we also look at pervious surfaces? The ratio that's always been kind of coming up, and so look at that formula that we have for that and see if we can incentivize impervious surfaces.
We're gonna go down this path, and I like that deal. I think that's a great idea. But there's also the factor of where your front line begins, and it's really unfair when you start looking at these new builds because you get, I think, the average of what's next to you sometimes, and that can create a bigger house or create more opportunity for where you can build a front porch. So I'd like to look at the front facing frontage as well, if possible.
So I'm going to suggest that right now we've come up with a whole bunch of work for staff and probably need to prioritize a little bit here. Does anyone object to allocating or asking the city manager to allocate staff time to these three particular issues? Can we then say, Karen made a very specific argument, let's start there and then work down this list, and we'll leave it to the city manager to work with staff to figure out what sort of timetable might be reasonable given, some of the new staff coming on and things like that. Is that council okay with that?
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members. It's our, what we call the preliminary closing budget update for 24. So we are 1 month into our new fiscal year. And this is our update of where we are preliminarily looking at things before we head into our audit season and what we call the soft close, which is coming up. It'll be your next update from us on 24. Apologize for the typo there, but for all those millions watching at home in the wide world of sports, you go to webstergrovesmo.gov/budget, find all the documents that we're talking about today. Again, this will have our budget performance update, which we provided you the line item detail thereof. We'll walk through some highlights on the personnel services budget, and then also our quarterly investment, where we are going to end 24. So through our budget performance, grab our picture of us and move that down there. We have revenue that came in just, if all funds, slightly under at 96%, 1.1 million under. Not concerned about that number at all. This budget included receiving the charging grant station revenue of 2.5 million.
Gotcha.
So if you take that grant that we did not get and did not expend any money for out, we actually ended 1.4 to the good. If we take that grant out of the budget and such.
Which also explains the expenditures.
Which explains the expenditures as well. So we did not have the spending for that included, incurred, as well. The really great news, as we've talked about through our budget process and such, is where our general fund ended up. I'm very happy to say that we were 105% of revenue, 890,000 so far over the budgets that we anticipated with revenue. We have not yet received one more month of sales tax through the pool that will come in on that. And also, I'm glad that we're bringing that variance back. Our continued work on coming to our revenue estimates and re-looking at them yearly as we go through the process instead of one time early on in the budget process to bring that variance down. It's a good number to have, but also your budget, even your revenue budget, should be closer to matching where your actuals are. So our goal is to improve that variance by reducing the variance. We want our spending to be near and our revenue to be near where we're planning. So that you can make a better decision and understand the truth of your revenue at the beginning of the year. Expenditures were at 95% of the budget going through. There's probably a few bills not yet included in this. This data was pulled right at the end. And so we included what's called unposted transactions, which are invoices entered, but not yet approved or such like that. But we will always have vendors who send us, on July 31, there'll be a glut of bills that came in and we're trying to enter them. And so that's our sort of fiscal close when we end the bill paying, but we always know that we'll have a couple weeks of August where we're paying bills on 24. So with that, I wanted to just turn and feel free to ask questions as we go. But our budget highlights on personnel services. This is pretty much a settled budget, except for very final couple changes that need to be made. I just wanted to look at personnel services costs by fund in the budget in 24. You can see general fund obviously carries the vast majority of our personnel services. We budgeted 13.8. We actually came to 96% of that. And as you can see, versus 23, look at our personnel services costs and change there. One of the things that we've noticed there is the difference in the age of employees, right? As new employees have come in, you have a younger set of employees, the demographics change what that pay scale looks like and such. So just a remarkable change. You look down, sewer lateral, we did have an accounting issue there when we made the budget adjustments, and we planned for more staff in there less staff in that fund than we ended up putting in that fund along the way. So that's why the 118%, again, $9,000, well within the budget and what we have overall for sewer lateral. It's not a concern, but I wanted to tell you that. One issue that we are going to work on is the grant fund. You can see $94,000 of costs. We have to work with the police on the overtime grants, which are approving for 25 in this budget, just to get a better reporting structure put in place in terms of those hours. The costs are always in the general fund because that's where our staff is paid from, but the revenue goes to the grant fund. So now we've got a cost over here and a revenue on the other hand. So we just need to work that reporting structure so it's more timely rather than waiting on have a last end of the year update of numbers to correct the accounting. But again, all funds, we budgeted just about 16 million for in all funds at 16.6 last year. So a slight reduction in personnel service costs overall. And I wanted to draw that to overtime to really say, you can see the change in the numbers there in terms of where the city budget is now. I'll get to municipal court in a second, but the police and the fire department overtime lines and then all other departments as well within where we expect them to be. Police number is not yet included of $15,000 of revenue we have in the grant fund. So that will come down by 15,000 and overall. So really the police will be about 130,000 of overtime to the general fund, because they're getting reimbursed from MoDOT for some of that cost. But the fire department has brought overtime, certainly the new schedules, to be blunt, are working out well, and overtime is being managed in that regard. Yes, sir.
Sorry, were you gonna ask a question number second?
No, I was just saying good.
All right, I was gonna ask first on the previous slide, what do you consider personnel services costs?
Personnel services, and it's a great question. Just point you all, if you want to grab one of these operations right here in your hands, you can go to, get you to a good page that will give you everything you need to know. If you look at, or just take the city council, for example here, on page 3, personnel services are going to be what we call the 600 numbers. So page 3 is, let's say in the top, general government, city council, 600 numbers. So you have part-time workers' compensation for your budget and FICA. Those are the 3 things we pay into. So any social security cost, your workers' compensation cost, and your part-time salary, right? So all things related to employment, retirement included, are personnel services. This, of course, is why in this fund, you see the pension fund has $1.1 million. In the 24 budget, we were using the pension fund to pay for pension costs. And in this coming budget in 25, we now moved those to the general fund to truly put that 1.1 in with the general fund cost as well. All of our employees are paid from the general fund except for a few splits, but the pension was over in another fund completely. And so you didn't get an accurate number of what the personnel service cost was to have me as an employee if my other cost was over in that other fund.
Gotcha. Go on to the next slide, sorry.
Yep.
I was gonna ask, can we keep track of via graph, that way it's easily accessible, the police and fire department overtime, that way we can determine overtime expenses during CBA years versus non-CBA years?
Would you like it by month, by year, by?
Let's start by year.
I can pull it up now if you like.
No, you don't have to pull it up now, but I just think it'll be helpful as we go forward, especially as we have more CBAs.
And certainly our ERP system, now it will, there's a couple changes because obviously fire department has now a split we call the unscheduled and the training,
Yeah.
different object codes, but our system builds in that ability to graph over a 5-year trend and automatically. So
Eric, do you think a year is the right trend to look at? I'm kind of thinking maybe quarterly. but-
quarterly, probably. I mean, obviously vacancies, and especially in the union positions are going to need to be filled and there are justifiable public safety needs there. And so that's always going to drive overtime versus a department like in finance. If a person's out for a week, that work stays there unless it's crucial to be done and is waiting for them when they get back next week. So
It just, correct me if I'm wrong though, like the previous overtime for the fire department was much higher than 176.
that's correct. And I think I can give you that.
So
Yeah.
it's just interesting, right? I'm not saying that there's necessarily causation, but there.
It
Well,
certainly
there's
was.
a change in policy
Yeah.
too.
Mhm. They were.
Staffing policy.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, they, I believe overtime last year was at 23 was about 80,000 over the budget. So off the top of my head, this budget report doesn't provide last year's trend numbers. So
Yeah.
I can get it for you and have it.
Oh, no,
But yes, there is, and policy change certainly speaks to that. The reason we want to bring it up is just to simply show personnel services are going to cost. I wanted to really bring that up, but also overtime management is important. We look at the municipal court, it's our outstanding meaning the exception to the rule here. And that was an intentional. We've allowed a lot of overtime to work through a backlog of court cases and really get the courts back sped up on some things as well. So
well, we have a constitutional duty for that. as well.
we certainly do. There's a show cause order can be issued at any point. And the city must be ready to show its cause. So on investments, I do want to just highlight in our short time, we provided you the report. I want to thank Mr. Donovan for great work, again, working as our lead investment. I guess technically I'm your chief investment officer, but he has been my steady go-to gospel and help here on getting us good information. We have 28 million in investments in cash, about 11 million in investments right now. We pulled more into liquidity. Our liquidity has gone up to 61% to understand so that we can pay if there's any need to pre-front any costs for the destination WG before the bonds are sold. Okay. So as things became available, we took a moment to say, let's pull some things liquid so that we won't ever have to dip into any investments and take a penalty. We can have that money. Once the bonds are sold and that money is received, then we can rebate ourselves and put that money back on the market and pull that liquidity probably back down closer to about 50%. And then there's a question, once we have the bond money in hand, do we even need 50? Or do we really ladder in and try to gain on some of the income, the interest income that can be gained before the points start to go down? Which I think the standard wisdom here is going to be that interest is going to fall in the coming months. So what do we do over this quarter and into the Q4 of the calendar year to try to lock in some interest on? There are some longer rates with MOSIP. MOSIP will give us 5.5% to 6% still on a 2 to 3 year investment. But that's locking up some money for 2 to 3 years if we don't have a need for cool couple million just to be blunt. So, but I want to also highlight, you can see our weighted average yield. We're at 2 to 5.36. But this is the number I really wanted to highlight, and I picked 2018 to give you a sense of the difference. In 2018, we earned $201,000 of interest across all funds, and this year we'll be at about $937,000. So now we cannot take all credit for that. Thank you, the Federal Reserve, for its work on a business basis, but I do want to again highlight to give praise to Mr. Donovan for his work and his active management of the investment portfolio.
It's good for him. He locked in some good rates and everybody's saying the risk will go down. Maybe fall, maybe October.
All right, thank you very much. We need to make some appointments to boards and commissions. Police Community Engagement Board first. So Emerson and I can work with Katie about Brandy Grant and what might happen there and given eligibility questions.
She had an impressive resume.
Yeah. Yeah. And she raised her hand, so.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Cosgrove, Emerson as the liaison. I think our new tradition is that you get to make sort of the first.
I think, yes, I had an opportunity to talk to him. He was very open to working with the PCB and explain, and so I say yes, got a good, background. I won't hold it against him because he's an attorney, so,
Good and attorney aren't often used in the same sentence.
All right.
No, but he was
Speaking like a true
he
attorney.
was really interested in giving back to us.
All right, council, anyone have an objection to appointing Mr. Cosgrove? All right. He will be appointed to Police Community Engagement Board. Karen?
I'm sorry, the other one, we can't appoint because it's an ordinance. Can we waive the ordinance?
No, you
can amend the ordinance.
can, right, you can amend it, but you can't waive.
There's no discretionary authority?
I don't believe there is, David, in that particular section. It just says they shall be.
She can sit in as a
So,
member, as
yeah.
a guest.
Well, why don't, and I think that also, though, the chair and the commission would have to discuss, so
Right.
how about giving us a little time and we'll maybe try and come up with some options.
Traffic Advisory Commission doesn't require 1 year. Just a thought.
Yeah, that could be an option. Karen, Historic Preservation Commission, Kevin Randich, and then Jason Vassar Elong.
And we've got, how many openings there?
Just one. Do we have an alternate for that one? The alternate was for Board of Traffic Advisory.
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna have to make a choice there.
Well, I mean, I like both of their experience.
Can one of them go on the Board of Adjustments?
Good. I mean, David and
We could ask.
No, that's PCB. I'm talking about the
The engineer.
engineer and the anthropologist thing.
Mr. Anditch is the engineer.
Did either one of them express interest in another board if they couldn't get on this one?
They didn't list anything.
Or
but
what's
I
the
could check.
excuse me. What's the status of other members on HPC? Do we know if terms are ending anytime?
There may be some up in, usually there's some in September.
Maybe we ask him,
So
maybe
we see.
either of them would be open to another one, because they're both very qualified.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right, so Katie, how about you and I have a discussion, we can follow up and get some more information from them about maybe potential additional interest, and then we'll revisit this one at our next meeting.
And then also see who may be coming up.
Yeah, I just
Coming off the
looked and
board.
everyone's had a short, very short term, like less than 1 term. So it's possible someone might not wanna be reappointed or leave early, but might be unlikely.
All right, I think that is it then for our work session. Congratulations, everyone. We have 3 minutes to spare. That means 3 minutes to get in the other room and get started on our work there.
2 minutes that we do.
We've done that. Remember this time we've done it. Close for a break. All right, good evening. Welcome to the August 6th meeting of the Webster Grove City Council, and I will turn on my microphone, which might make things a lot better for everyone. We are happy to have you with us. We welcome questions, ideas, and comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may comment when you have filled out a speaker card. They're available by the on the front table by the door there. Please do so, and you can just hand them to the clerk here at the end of the dais. You'll get 3 minutes for your public comment. And we will recognize anyone on Zoom who might like to make a public comment if you will use the raise your hand function at that point in time of the meeting. In the meantime, we have some exciting things to do. And yes, that includes the library annual report.
Oh, boy.
But first, we're going to start with our roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss. Here. Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Hickson Shepherd is absent. Councilmember Hasselmeyer.
Here. All right, we will go right away to one of the more exciting things we're going to do tonight. And that is officially swear in, I guess the official, that's what we'll call it, the official swearing in of our Chief of Police, Vincent Aceves. And so if you, Chief, would please come forward, the city clerk will do the honors, and then we're going to have you take a couple pictures, including a picture with your family, because I know they're sitting in the back row, and I just saw one of the daughters roll her eyes at me, which is a good thing. Good for you.
Vincent Aceves,
Do solemnly swear in your right faith
solemnly swear here by state
that in my belief
that in my belief
I possess all the qualifications
I possess all of the qualifications
for the position of police officer
for the position of police
in the
officer
city of Webster Grove,
in the city of Webster
as
Groves,
required by the city
as required by the
and as
city
provided by the laws of the state of Missouri,
and as provided by the laws of the state of Missouri,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Missouri,
and of the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws
the provisions of all
of
laws
the state of Missouri,
of the state of Missouri
affecting the city of Webster Groves,
affecting the city of Webster Groves
and the ordinances of the city of Webster Groves,
and the ordinances of the city of Webster Groves,
and that I will faithfully demean myself in office.
and that I will faithfully obey myself in office.
Thank
Thank you.
Sign and take it with. That's
And
your
then-
copy.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna let you say a few words. We're gonna put this here. And I would also really like it if you would introduce your family to our community.
Absolutely. You know, I was going to do that because I wanted more eye rolling in the back. So, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Vincent Aceves. This is my 6th week as the Chief of Police in Webster Groves, and I am delighted to be here. I am as happy now as I was on day one. I want to introduce my family really quickly in the back. My wife, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, stand up. Elizabeth's a retired police officer. My daughters, Viviana and Olivia, please stand up. My brothers, Anthony and Ryan. Anthony's also a police officer. And my mother-in-law, Raina. Please stand up, Raina. Just want to take a few moments of your time to tell you how excited I am to be here. This was a big move for us and a big decision. And we were very intentional about our search. Webster Groves is and will continue to be a great fit for us. There have been a few minor challenges, and I want to acknowledge those. It's been very difficult for my daughters. They're 15 and 12. They're moving schools. I see we have some school-age children in the back over there, some athletes. My daughters are also athletes. I think that's the infrastructure that's going to kind of help them work through that obstacle of moving to a new school. So I'm grateful for my daughter's patience through this, grateful for my wife's patience. Thank you so much. I said, I've been here 6 weeks, and we have some great things going on downstairs. We have a great police department. We have some great men and women down there, great foundation. We're going to continue to build on that. And I want to just talk really briefly about the 3 core values that we're going to subscribe to: excellence, teamwork, and mentorship. What does excellence mean? Everybody has a different level of excellence. Everybody's best is different from the next person. But I think we can all agree that excellence is always doing your best, especially on the small tasks. We subscribe to that. Teamwork, always being a great team player, never being lazy, always doing what is expected of you and helping your team rise to the top. We subscribe to that. And mentorship, we're all about taking care of the people that are coming in on the front lines and preparing them for the next step, preparing them for whatever it is that they want to do in life, in this organization, or whatever they have in terms of goals to accomplish. We're going to prepare them for that. That's mentorship, and we subscribe to that as well. We've done some things in our organization in the first 6 weeks. We've streamlined our hiring process. We're in the process of promoting someone to a detective position. We've improved our communications. I want to continue to do these things, and I want to continue to get better, and we will do that. Everybody talks about a shortage of staffing in law enforcement. I think that it's fair to say that in most professions right now, people are having a difficult time recruiting and retaining employees. Law enforcement's no different. Maybe it's even a little bit more difficult than law enforcement. We're going to figure that out. This is going to be a destination that we're going to have to turn people away from. Webster Groves is not going to be a platform to something else. This is going to be a final destination for people who want to be in a great law enforcement organization. So that's what we're working towards. That's what you can look forward to. And once again, I am happy to be here and I am very accessible. If anybody from the community ever has any questions, ever needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. As you can see, we are all in. We moved from Chicago and we're here to stay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, our next item of interest and fun, and I think what brings us a lot of our crowd today, is we're going to do the Community Days Awards. So I will turn it over to our Director of Parks and Recreation, Scott Davis, and I'll just come down and do what he tells me to do.
Thank you, Mayor. So we had a great community days again this year. Webster's 4th of July, I think, is one of the best around. Many of you all participated. And so it was a big team effort. We got lucky on the weather, but all the departments in the city really put forth a lot to make this parade work. But it really can't happen without you all that actually enter the parade too. So we've got a few awards that our judges put out and judged all the floats that came through. So we'll just run through the list. The first one is You Are Loved, got the Best Children's Entry Award. I don't believe they're here. But outstanding children's entry went to Master Kim's Martial Arts. Best civic entry went to Webster Waves. Oh, this group's here. The outstanding civic entry went to the City Council.
Very nice.
I think it was the eagle flying on the roof that got it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The best classic entry went to the Gateway Chapter Veterans of the Battle of the Bulge. Outstanding classic entry went to St. Louis STL Corvette Club. The best commercial entry went to Columbia Auto. Sorry. Yeah. The outstanding commercial entry went to Telly Tire and Auto. They were also our parade sponsor for the second year in a row, which is very huge for us. We appreciate them quite a bit. Best performing entry went to the Webster Groves High School cheerleaders. The outstanding performing entry went to the Webster Groves High School marching band. The best novelty entry went to Laclede Grove. The outstanding novel entry went to Rooftop Church. And then our judges always give out a couple of awards that we just call the Best Special Judges Awards. And it's kind of a catch-all for anything else that's just cool that doesn't fall into one of those entries. And so the Best Special Judge Award went to Hudson Elementary Bucket Drummers.
That was cool.
And the Outstanding Special Judges Award went to the Webster Grove Skatesman Hockey Club.
Thank you all.
And we've got one more award for our MVPs, and that's the Webster Groves Masonic Temple. They are all of our marshals for the parade and have 40 to 50 people come out and help marshal the parade. We couldn't do it without their help. Thank you all, and we'll see you in 330 days. Something like that.
All right. Thank you, Director Davis. Appreciate all the hard work you've done. Okay. We will now move on to our presentation for the annual Library Board Budget Report. We have with us, I think Anita, we should all clap for Madison Morris, who is the Library Director. And we do have board members in attendance as well. So thank you all for coming too. All right. Welcome. Green light should come on. There you go.
We'll get there eventually. All right, thank you for having me. So this is just basically a quick walkthrough of what the library has decided to do with their budget this year. I'm not going to go through every single line item because we would be here all night, and I know none of you want that. But I will give you kind of a general overview. I believe it was part of your packet, so you should probably have it in front of you. But just kind of some general things. I know all of you are aware that most of our income comes from taxes, but a few other supplemental income things that we have within our budget are this year, which is new, is some interest that we're expecting to earn from a new investment account that we opened with our reserve. So we recently invested our $1 million reserve budget and we'll be earning interest on that. Another supplemental income is we do passport services, which has just grown and grown every year. This past year, we made about $60,000 in passport services. Wow. We didn't budget for $60,000 this year because it was a little overwhelming. So we tried to scale that back to a more reasonable number for what we think the income will be, but also what is more accessible for staff. And then a few other ones are state aid. So we have yearly state aid. We're never exactly sure what that number is going to be, but we also apply for different grants each year that supplements the library income. So you can do like technology grants. We do a summer reading program grant every year. And we also have a Friends of the Library group that helps us with special projects and also provides incomes for some of our special events that we do. They also supplement our large print collection, and we included them kind of in our budget this year. We hadn't listed them before, but this year we have it actually listed as a point of income because I felt like that was something that was worth noting, that we are getting that income from the Friends of the Library to supplement our collection. So within our budget, obviously our biggest budget item is going to be our staff. That's both full-time and part-time, and the benefits that go along with staffing. To me, it makes perfect sense that that's our biggest expense, because if you don't have library staff and good library staff, the library can't function without them. They're our biggest asset. They're what make everything happen at the library. So that's going to be our biggest expense. Another expense we have is the bond payment that we're paying back for the renovation that we did about 12 years ago. That's a pretty big expense each year. That will fall off in 2029. And then our physical library collection. So, you know, your traditional sense of what people go to the library for. Obviously, the library now is so much more than just books in a building, but we still have a big amount of money that goes to our physical library collection. So that's going to be your books, audiobooks, DVDs, et cetera, et cetera. And that includes continually rising cost of e-resources. So that's Libby and Hoopla, which is giving you your access to ebooks, e-audiobooks, some streaming, things like that. That's one that has been really hard to tackle over the years because you think you budget enough and then it's just not enough, you know, it just keeps going up, which is great because people are using it, which is what we want. But it is one that's a little bit iffy to budget for sometimes. This year, we also included some capital projects that is coming from our reserves. So we just have some general building maintenance that we need to keep up with. We have some roof issues. We're hoping to update some carpet that's in the building, and then also do some projects in both our children's room and our reference department that's just making the space more accessible for people and easier to use for what our patrons are actually wanting within the library. So that's the capital projects part of our budget this year. And then other than that, I feel like those are the big highlighted budget items. Does anyone have any questions about that before I give you a quick spiel about things coming up at the library?
Council? All right, on we go.
Okay, so just an update that our summer reading program is still happening. It does end this week. We've had a really great turnout. We've had over 600 people participating this year, which has been super fun. We have kind of our end of summer reading. I wanted to call it a kickoff, but obviously it's not a kickoff, but end of summer reading celebration on Saturday. And we will have free snow cones from 2 to 3 at the library. So if anyone's interested in a snow cone on Saturday, please come join us. Our reference department just finished a years-long digitization project. They were digitizing in conjunction with the Historical Society, the Kate Moody project, which was thousands and thousands of historic Webster Groves articles that are now digitized and accessible to everyone. So we're very excited about that. Our reference librarian has been literally working on it for years. So he's super jazzed that that has been completed and is also a great resource for Webster history. And also lots of people are very interested in their home history. So there's a lot of documents within that collection that can be used to find information about that. We recently subscribed to consumer reports and have been getting a lot of good feedback about that. So not only can you use regular consumer reports like the magazines and things that come out every year, we're subscribed to consumerreports.org and you can have access to that for free with your library card. We have a book a librarian program going that kind of goes back to that house history, but to a lot of other things like technology help or just how to use your library. And you can book one-on-one help with a librarian. It's usually about a 30-minute appointment, but we can help you with whatever needs you might have. And then a big project that we have working on is that we are actually switching our ILS system, which is basically the system that everything in the library runs on, how you check out books, how you view our catalog, everything like that. We're changing in October, so that will be hopefully a minimal change from the patron standpoint, and a better change from the patron standpoint, and will also give access to thousands and thousands of other materials that we don't currently have access to throughout the state of Missouri and sharing with other libraries. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, any questions? So 2.5 or 3.5 years have you now been?
1.5.
1.5?
Yeah.
See, you've made yourself so at home that we, well, congratulations and thank you. And please tell the library board I miss everyone. But I did notice this summer, it seemed like there were more events and more community engagement, including some things in Ivory Crockett Park. And I just wanted to say, community has noticed because people have mentioned them to me. So thank you for that work that you all are doing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a quick curious question.
Yeah.
The green leaves that are in front of the little, the bench, the brick wall.
Oh, the little art leaves that are sticking up? Yeah, that's in conjunction with Webster Arts. They did it at the Art and Air program. Different people in the community decorated those. There's a few other installations. I don't know that that's the correct word. Installations around town. So it's just going to be there for a few more weeks, but they asked if they could.
Great, you know, they just catch my eye every
Yeah, I love how it
Stuff,
looks.
the stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
But they asked if they could incorporate that into our landscaping guy was just put in all of those flowers this year. And we were like, yeah, put them in with the flowers. So yeah, I've been excited about that. It looks really fun.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate you
much.
being here. All right, we will move on to our public hearing. And so we will begin Peace United Church of Christ, 47 North Bompard Avenue, an application by Peace United Church of Christ for a conditional use permit to allow a place of worship use in the existing structures 483 East Lockwood Avenue, located on the 16.23 acre tract of land at 47 North Bompard Avenue in the EC-1 Educational Campus District. Right, do we have a staff presentation? Yes.
There we go.
There we go.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Renee Tyler. I am the Deputy City Manager for Community Vitality. And we do have a presentation for the recommendation for passing this. Peace United Church of Christ, which is currently located at 47 North Bompard Avenue, has presented an application for a conditional use permit to allow a place of worship use in an existing structure located at 483 East Lockwood Avenue. It is located on a 16.2 acre tract of land at 47 North Bompard Avenue in the EC-1 Educational Campus District. Next. On the screen is a map of the property, and it shows that there have been 8 CUPs granted since 1966. Next. Operated as a seminary since the 1920s, it is located in the EC-1 Educational Campus District, which is in compliance with the comprehensive plan for the city. Next. The request for a place of worship use utilizing the existing facilities at the subject property. The property is currently occupied by another Eden Seminary. Peace United Church of Christ will utilize 3 different buildings on the Eden campus for their place of worship and uses accessory to it. The place of worship will include all meeting space for group meetings related to church functions as an accessory use typical for religious services. On the screen is the zoning analysis that was used for the conditional use permit. And there are 5 things that we ask the council consider. 1, substantially increase traffic hazards or congestion. 2, substantially increase fire hazards. 3, adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. 4, adversely affect the general welfare of the community. And 5, overtax public utilities. The church intends to use the subject property for worship services. As you can see, we have square footage for the Press Education Center, and it will have worship services, congregation meetings, and events. That's 7,589 square feet. Schultz Hall will have staff offices, meetings, and music rehearsals. It has 3,885 square feet. Schultz Hall will also be used for storage. They have 340 square feet allocated for that. And Shore Commons will host worship services, congregation meetings, and events. And that has 4,084 square feet. Next. We've also looked at parking. We find that there are no parking concerns. 18 spaces are required by the applicant out of 270 available spaces. Next. There are no new buildings proposed, so no setbacks are an issue. Next. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends the approval of the requested CUP as submitted. Should the council recommend approval, the CUP staff recommends the following conditions. 1, all provisions of the city code shall apply except as expressly modified in the ordinance. 2, the approved use shall be place of worship use. 3, EC1 Educational Campus District Dimensions Regulations shall apply to all uses. 4, this conditional use permit shall be personal to the applicant and shall not run with the land. Council is asked to consider the following 5 factors. There is no substantial increase of traffic hazards or congestion. There will be no substantial increase of fire hazards. There is no adverse effect to the character of the neighborhood. And there will be no overtaxing of public utilities. This application was passed by the Plan Commission 7-0, and it is the staff's recommendation that council approve and pass this application.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Deputy City Manager Tyler? Right, thank you. I know we have representatives of the applicant here. If you would like a moment to speak, you are welcome to it. There's no requirement that you do so.
Unless somebody has a question, I don't see a need.
All right, thank you. All right, I do not have any speaker cards for the public hearing. Is that correct? And I do not see anyone online with their hand raised. So I believe we are to the point where it's your job to enter some things into the record, Mr. City Attorney. Oh, for this one? For piece, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so you're gonna come up and you're gonna tell me your name and your address, and then you get 3 minutes for your comments.
Yeah, I think I'm your, yeah.
Yeah, next door neighbor. Nice to see you, Simon.
Yeah. And we were wondering what the plan is with the Webster skate park. I know you're moving the obstacles.
Simon, we are at a different place in the meeting. So this is just about Peace Church. We gotta do a couple other things here real quick, and then we're gonna have you come back.
My bad.
And talk about, and you can make your comment on the skate park. No, that's okay. It's hard, when it's your first meeting, it's hard to figure out which one. So I'll hang on to these and we'll get back to them. All right.
Now,
yeah.
at the close of the public hearing, we would move for the admission of the following exhibits for ordinance 9262 and its public hearing. The Plan Commission staff report prepared by Maura Perry, Director of Planning and Development, for the meeting dated July the 1st of 2024. An application letter from Peace United Church of Christ, the survey of the property, the map of the seminary campus, the building floor plans, the draft minutes from the Plan Commission meeting dated July the 1st of 2024, the PowerPoint before the City Council this evening, August the 6th of 2024, and the zoning code of the City of Webster Groves.
All right, thank you. I now will close the public hearing. So let's consider that closed. And do we have a motion, perhaps, Councilmember Hassemeyer, for the first and second reading of Bill number 9262?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to call for the first and second reading of Bill number 9262.
Bill number 9262, first reading. An ordinance granting a conditional use permit to Peace United Church of Christ to allow a place of worship use in an existing structure on approximately 16.23 acres tract of land at 47 North Bompard Avenue in the EC1 Educational Campus District and matters related thereto.
Is there discussion? Second reading, please.
Bill 9262, second reading. An ordinance granting a conditional use permit to Peace United Church of Christ to allow a place of worship use in an existing structure on an approximately 16.23 acre tract of land at 47 North Bompard Avenue in the EC1 Educational Campus District and matters related thereto.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to our remarks from the community of visitors that are generally applicable to issues. So Simon, I'm going to invite you back up and we'll do this again. And please, just so you know, as a matter of and your friends here as well, generally, we do not respond to public comments. So you tell us what you want us to know. But I believe I received email from one of the other people on this. So we'll figure out a way to get in touch directly. But why don't you share with the entirety of council what your concerns are and what issues you have?
Basically, we're concerned that you're just gonna tear down the skate park and not return the obstacles to where they were. So we were just coming up here to find out what the plan is with the obstacles at the Webster Grove skate park. And there also has been in the past a fundraiser to raise money to make improvements to the skate park. And for a while, we were under the impression that that was like being worked on because there was about like 20K raised for it. But I know that I think the mayor like changed or something. So yeah, we were just wondering what the plan is with all that. And yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm not really supposed to do. I'm going to answer your question in part because Bella, who's Bella? Is that Bela? I apologize. Bela, you sent me an email, right? Have you seen the response? Okay, so you have a response to your email from me. And what it tells you is the skate park renovation, we need a staging area for the pool renovation, which is why the skate park has to go away for a little while. In addition to the privately raised money, there is part of our Proposition W funding, $250,000 to build and rebuild the skate park in the same footprint.
Okay.
This fall, this is the important part for you gentlemen, this fall is scheduled to be some community engagement activities where we're going to want you to come in and tell us the kind of things that would be good to have when that park is rebuilt. So I now have some numbers for you. And so I'll pass these along to the Director of Parks and Recreation so he can let you know when those public engagement times are.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Should I turn this off?
Make sure you tell everyone else that's interested too about the public.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You can leave it on because Mr. Dave Buck is going to come. Well, Bela, would you like to speak? Yeah, all right, good. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip you automatically there.
Basically, I just want.
Will you give us your full name, please?
I'm Bela Bittner.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, I just wanted to make a case for having still the original skate park that's there because I saw blueprints of what they're trying to put in like Old Orchard kind of in that little park. The little obstacles they were going to build there. And personally, I think it's a great idea, but also like the skate park we have is like super special to us. And additionally, last time that the skate park was moved and then put back, like around COVID for whatever reason that happened, like some of the ramps kind of got messed up. There was a bench that was there that's gone now. And then the box in the middle of the skate park, like the panels on it are like uneven now since it got moved. And so I just wanted to say that if you do move it all around again, maybe like be careful of messing up the ramps. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And please know, we do want you gentlemen to help decide what that new park looks like because none of us, well, I shouldn't speak for anybody else, but I don't.
I think you can speak for.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. So, all right. So thank you.
And I know we're not supposed to like comment, but thank you guys for coming and sitting through all of this interesting information so that you could communicate to us what your concerns are and just please stay engaged and help us put it back in a way that you would be happy with.
Yeah. All right. You all are welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, or it's okay if you want to go ahead and take off now. All right, Mr. Buck. Sure.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Dave Buck, 124 South Elm.
Gonna follow that, Dave.
Yeah, I know. Given the groundbreaking on the water park, you know that in time I was going to return to the indoor pool, and I'm going to do it tonight. I have two fair and reasonable requests on behalf of those many residents who support the indoor pool as part of the water park, given that its Dynadome footing, as we understand it, will be included as part of the renovation. First, please add a line item on the destination Webster Grove's project list timeline. And this is something, Marie, that you handed out at the Parks and Recreation meeting. I'm just saying that to put in a line item that says, at some time, City council commits to reconsidering the indoor pool. Doesn't mean that you're going to approve it. It just means it's on the calendar. It's on it. You set a date to do it, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, just set a date. We think that that's a good idea. Second, please schedule a serious review at some time, your choice, of what we believe is a more accurate annual revenue projection for the indoor pool. We are not experts in operating expenses, and we don't pretend to be, but we have significant experience on the revenue side of the ledger as championship swimmers, coaches, et cetera, swim parents. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in the water. We've spent a lot of time with kids who swam in a pool, both indoors and outdoors. And we think the city's current indoor pool revenue projection is certainly one option. And I don't begrudge Scott at all, but it's one option. There are other options. And we believe through our analysis that the current revenue projection that Scott's came up with, that is the basis of your determination not to move forward on the indoor pool, is overly conservative. We think it's unfair, it's unjust. There's things that are just missing and left out. And we just want the opportunity to sit down and to share our case. This is Julia Lefevre, this is Peter Bacher, this is Evan Stunter at the high school. We just want to come in and show another view of revenue, because I think if you see it, you may think about the revenue opportunity differently about the indoor pool. That's it.
Thank you very much. All right, does anyone have any new business? Then we'll move on to unfinished business. Councilwoman Alexander, could you call for the third reading for bill number 9260, please?
Third reading of bill number 9260 and adoption.
Second. You'll all bear with me while I pull that back up. Sorry. Here we go. I have it. I got it. Thanks. Thanks. All right. Bill 9260, third and final reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 60, Article 7, Section 60.975, Schedule H of the Code of Webster Groves, parking prohibited, to restrict parking on Valley Road.
Is there any discussion? All right, let's have that vote then, please.
Councilmember Bliss?
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander? Councilmember Hassemeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes. All right, we'll move on to new business. Councilmember Franklin, could you call for the first and second reading of bill number 9263, please?
I'd like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9263.
Second.
Bill 9263, first reading. An ordinance permitting the subdivision of certain property, 439 Landscape Court in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Is there discussion? All right, do we have a presentation for this one? Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to be sure.
I was kind of expecting a presentation, but it's okay.
Well,
I read through the materials.
All right. Are you right then if we go ahead with the second reading? All right, let's have the second reading then.
Bill 9263, second reading. An ordinance permitting the subdivision of certain property, 439 Landscape Court in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
All right, Councilmember Bliss, could you call for the first and second reading of bill number 9264, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9264.
Second.
Bill 9264, first reading. An ordinance amending the Code of Webster Groves, Chapter 10, Article 12, Parks, Section 10.1200, locations by renaming the Sculpture Park, 175 West Kirkham Avenue to the Jerry Welch Sculpture Garden.
Right, is there any discussion? I think we had most of our discussion the last time, so let's go ahead with the second reading, please.
Bill 9264, second reading. An ordinance amending the Code of Webster Groves, Chapter 10, Article 12, Parks, Section 10.1200, location by renaming the Sculpture Park, 175 West Kirkham Avenue to the Jerry Welch Sculpture Garden.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Smith, could you call for the first and second reading of Bill number 9265, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the reading of bill number 9265. First and second reading.
Second.
Bill 9265, first reading. An ordinance adopting a revision and republication of the ordinances of the Code of Webster Groves, Missouri, entitled, quote, "The Code of Webster Groves 2024," unquote, and providing for the repeal of all applicable ordinances previously adopted with certain exceptions.
I just have one quick question to make sure I understand. I don't know whether this would be for the city clerk or the city manager, so I'll just throw it out and let you all decide. As I understand it, nothing changes in the ordinance. This is our regular process, but it sounds like this time we're getting a bit of an upgrade in that there will be some, a
Yes.
company will more regularly do some work for us. Is that
That's
correct?
And also, it wasn't just a codification, they did a whole republication. They reformatted everything. We used to do it in-house, but due to staff time and that kind of thing, we entered agreement with Civic Plus to do it. So that, in addition to reformatting every chapter, they put an index in and also a code comparative table. And once it goes live, there'll be new features, more advanced search options and other upgrades. And then also there's the option, it'll be updated quarterly.
Okay.
And then for a little extra fee, they will put them on there as they're approved until the quarterly update. So
Okay.
everything should be more up to date and much easier to access, even like printing and sharing and copying. It was even kind of hard sometimes to print something or you know, highlight a section on the old one, so.
That's great. Thank you very much. That sounds very encouraging to me. As someone who's struggled to find things in our code sometimes. I think we have a second reading then.
Bill 9265, second reading. An ordinance adopting a revision and republication of the ordinances of the Code of Webster Groves, Missouri, entitled, quote, "The Code of Webster Groves 2024," unquote, and providing for the repeal of all applicable ordinances previously adopted with certain exceptions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hasselmeyer, could you call for the passage of resolution 2024-47?
For the passage, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to call for the passage of resolution 2024-47.
Second.
All right, so this resolution, we don't do a reading, and this is adopting a city flag policy, and this, I don't know whether the city manager or the city attorney would like to comment. I'll just say we have gotten recently a very large increase in the number of people who are requesting us to fly different kinds of flags. So it became time to have a policy that we believe allows for council action that is in accordance with our mission statement, our values, so that we are consistently considering these requests. So if you'd like to add anything, please do.
Madam Mayor, I think that you covered it. The request, as you said, to fly various flags has certainly increased, and we want to be able to apply our decision-making consistently as we respond to the various residents and groups.
And that policy is consistent with the Supreme Court of the United States, and they've spoken in regard to flag policies and the city's power in that regard. And again, what it does is essentially establish the fact that our flags are not a public square. And so people don't have the right to come in and say, I want you to do this because I want to do it. Again, it leaves it up solely to the discretion of the city as to what flags get flown. But you need a policy in place to do that, and that's what this does.
I'm a little confused by the policy itself. It says the decision to approve or deny a request to display commemorative flag shall be made at a publicly noticed council meeting. Is that by majority vote then?
Yes, sir.
Right. And so as a council member, if I want a flag flown, do I have to give you a name of a citizen that also wants that flag flown? Just me, if I wanted to myself?
Yes, sir. You could do it yourself, but we would have to go through the same approval process.
So it kind of creates two trains, right? It's one, a council member has to bring it forward, and then does it automatically go to a vote then?
Yes.
As long as one council member?
And then if a resident wants to, they must engage a council member to do that on their behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And this policy has been approved in other places and has survived judicial scrutiny in other places. So.
I do have one question, and can I borrow this for a second? I think there might be a typo in E. Is it E? In the last sentence, commemorative flags, I think but should be must be.
Yes.
All right, so I don't know if we need to change that before we adopt this. I know it's.
Yeah, but that is a scrivener's error.
Yes,
So
that's what I thought.
we can recognize it as that in the record and adopt it as it is with corrections.
What's the harm if we don't adopt a policy, Neil?
Well, you then at least open it up, according to the Supreme Court, to an argument that it is the public square.
Is it arbitrary and capricious then? Is that the concept? Like,
No, I think you'd have no power to say no under those circumstances. You'd be subject to a situation where there'd be an argument for censorship in the absence of a policy.
gotcha. All right.
All right, are there further questions or discussion? Then I think we'll have the vote, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander? Councilmember Hasselmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss?
Yes.
All right, is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? No, I will just make note that we have a representative from Intuition and Logic who is working on our stormwater plan. If there are any questions that you have about any of, we're gonna have a presentation on the plan, so I don't want to open up the whole plan because I know you haven't finished yet. So I was getting to dangerous territory there. But if anyone has questions about this particular item and why we are expanding funding, certainly available here. All right, then Councilmember Alexander, would you call for the passage of the consent agenda, please?
Second.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander? Councilmember Hasselmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss?
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
All right, we have we have appointed David Cosgrove to the Police Community Engagement Board, and we are holding some Historic Preservation Commission appointments until we get some further information. We do have an executive closed session, if you wouldn't mind, under number 3 personnel.
And number 1 and 3.
Oh, and number 1.
Okay. Mayor, I'd like to call for an executive closed session related to attorney-client privilege communications, Missouri Statute 610.021 subsection 1, and personnel, Missouri Statute 610.021 subsection 3.
Second.
Councilmember Alexander? Councilmember Hasselmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss?
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
All right, thank you all. Thank you. Does anyone want to hang this on their wall?